Hello and welcome to this episode of Geography Girl. And today I wanted to tell you about the non-existent islands of old maps. There was once an island called High Brazil off of the west coast of Ireland. This island was shrouded in fog and only visible once every 7 years. It swore that it's seen its green hills shimmering just beyond the horizon. It appeared on maps for centuries, from Italian Porcelain charts to early atlases, before quietly vanishing from geography altogether. And High Brazil wasn't alone. Across the early modern world, maps were dotted with phantom islands, places that existed only in the imagination, yet shaped exploration, trade, and empire. Some were simple mistakes, others were acts of deception, and some, like High Brazil, are mirrors of desire, projections of what humanity wanted to find at the edge of the world. These are non-existent islands, the cartographic ghosts, the age of discovery and the age of error. Between the 15th and 18th century, European maps were undergoing a revolution. Exploration, colonization, and navigation demanded increasingly precise representations of the globe. But with precision came speculation. In the spaces between the coastlines, imagination filled the gaps. Photographers worked on a strange mix of science and hearsay. A sailor's rumour could become a continent. Maps were political instruments as much as they were scientific documents. Early Atlantic maps filled with mysterious islands. St. Brendan's Isle, Antilles, High Brazil, Isle of Demons, and Friesland. Some of these were the echoes of places misremembered, but others were pure invention. Take Friesland, one of the most famous phantom islands. It appeared repeatedly on 16th and 17th century maps, a large triangular landmass south of Iceland. The story likely began with a misreading of Friesland in the Netherlands and grew through repeated copying between mapmakers. Each map reinforced this illusion until Friesland became a kind of collective hallucination, a real place through repetition alone. And this was the paradox of early modern geography. The more accurate the tools became, the more seductive the myths that filled the blanks. High Brazil, the island of eternal mist. Of all the phantom islands, High Brazil is the most romantic. It first appeared on maps around 1325, and for centuries thereafter it floated in the North Atlantic, somewhere off the west of Ireland. According to Irish legend, High Brazil was a paradise, a place of great learning and prosperity, ruled by a wise priest-king, said to be veiled in mist and visible only once in every 7 years. Medieval monks and sailors claim to have seen it. Their stories are woven into Gaelic folklore. But High Brazil's importance wasn't just mythical. Its cartographic presence is influenced by real exploration. Some scholars believe that John Cabot, who discovered Newfoundland in 1497 under the English flag, was partially searching for High Brazil. When he landed on the Canadian coast, his sailors thought that they had found the fabled island. In this way, this fictional island has helped to shape the geography of an empire. Even the name survived. Brazil, the South American country, likely derived from the Celtic word brisale, meaning land of the red dye wood. The politics of cartographic imagination. Maps are never neutral. They are instruments of power. They are claims to space disguised as knowledge. Phantom islands not only reflect human curiosity, but geopolitical anxiety. For example, Antilles, sometimes called the Isle of the Seven Cities, appeared on maps around the 15th century onwards, a supposed refuge for 7 Christian bishops who fled Muslim conquest in Iberia. It is positioned somewhere on the mid-Atlantic. Antilles functioned as a colonial premonition. When Portuguese and Spanish sailors later reached the Caribbean, they associated these new islands with Antilles, even naming the Antilles after it. Similarly, the Isle of Demons, marked on early French and Flemish maps near Newfoundland, embodied the fears of northern exploration. Sailors reported hearing screams in the fog. Explorers like Marguerite de la Roque, abandoned there in the 1590s, helped reinforce this legend. Each phantom island reveals something unique about the society that imagined it. They were projections of European worldviews, utopias, anxieties, and fantasies, empire, commerce, and the ghosts of the Pacific. By the 18th century, mapping had become a geopolitical arms race. The Pacific Ocean, vast, uncharted, and tantalizing, became a magnet for imaginary islands. The Isle of the Great Southland, for instance, appeared on countless maps before Australia was formally charted. Explorers believed that there must be a massive southern continent balancing the known land masses of the north, a geographical symmetry demanded by the Enlightenment's reason. When British and French empires turned their attention to the Pacific, phantom islands proliferated. Ships reported glimpses of land that later expeditions failed to find. Sometimes mirages, sometimes floating pumice, sometimes wishful thinking. Even Captain Cook, perhaps the most meticulous navigator of his age, marked islands that later vanished. His charts included Sandy Island, which is supposedly located near New Caledonia, which remained on maps until 2012, when modern satellite imaging confirmed it simply did not exist. But in the 18th century, the stakes were real. A false island could shift trade routes or spark territorial claim. The Spanish and British navies both sent missions to verify Phantom Islands, hoping to preempt rivals. The New Zealand Company in the late 1840s even used vague maps and speculative descriptions to sell land to settlers that had never been surveyed. Phantom Islands as cultural mirrors. What's fascinating about these Phantom Islands is that they often tell us more about human psychology than geography. Each one reflects the cultural mood. In the Middle Ages, Phantom Islands were spiritual, visions of paradise or places of penance and demons. In the Age of Discovery, they became imperial, symbols of expansion, wealth, and conquest. By the 19th century, they turned scientific, remnants of the limits of observation, debated by geographers rather than theologians. Even in their disappearance, these islands shaped history. When the British Admiralty or the French Hydrographic Service erased a Phantom Island from maps, it wasn't just a technical correction, it was an epistemological act. The deletion of a space symbolised the triumph of rational empiricism over myth. And yet the myth persists. Even today, Phantom Islands occasionally appear. Errors in satellite data, mirages interpreted by pilots, digital glitches that echo an age-old tension between observation and imagination. The geopolitics of disappearance. The story of Phantom Islands isn't just about their creation, it's also about their erasure. When High Brazil and Friesland were erased from the maps, the world didn't become smaller, it just became more manageable. Modernity needed a clean and ordered globe, one that could be divided into coordinates, nations, and trade zones. Removal of phantom geography was part of the same intellectual project that gave way to colonialism and capitalist globalization. Maps became tools of control. The last blank spaces were filled. The oceans, once mystic, became logistical. Photographers like J.B. Harley later argued that maps are never objective. They are narratives of power. The erasure of Phantom Islands mirrors the erasure of indigenous geographies, oral maps, and non-Western worldviews. The age that killed High Brazil also dismissed Polynesian navigation, Aboriginal songlines, and African cosmologies. In this sense, the death of Phantom Islands was not just a scientific correction, but a cultural narrowing. The persistence of the imaginary. The story doesn't end with erasure. In the digital age, Phantom Islands are reappearing, not on maps, but in gaming, fiction, and in the collective imagination. Writers like China Miéville and poets like Seamus Heaney, and artists from Iceland all the way to Japan, has resurrected these lost geographies as metaphors for uncertainty and belonging. The internet itself, with its shifting and unmappable spaces, has become a new kind of cartographic frontier. In 2012, when Australian researchers undiscovered Sandy Island, which is the last major Phantom Island, they held a small ceremony at sea, marking its coordinates with a plaque reading Sandy Island, in brackets, disappeared. Today, climate change and sea level rise are creating a new generation of islands that are vanishing, this time physically. From the Pacific to the Arctic, nations like Tuvalu and Kiribati face literal erasure from the map, which urges us to question what happens when these places cease to exist. Mapping the unmappable. Ultimately, the story of Phantom Islands is about the limits of knowledge and the human need to fill these limits with stories. Maps mirror our belief. When we believed the world was infinite, we drew infinite possibilities. When we decided the world was finite, we drew borders instead. High Brazil, Friesland, and Tilla, they weren't just mistakes. They were an immaterial manifestation of a world unknown. In the end, it was us that swallowed these islands, not the sea, by insisting that the world be fully known, fully owned, and fully mapped. That's it for today's episode. I really hope you enjoyed this look at Phantom Islands. I personally find this topic so fascinating. If you liked it, give us a like and subscribe for more. I bring out new episodes every Tuesday. Goodbye!